Maui is one of those places that people dream about for years visiting. The beaches, Road to Hana, Haleakala, the resorts, the food, the people, it's all there. But before you book your Maui vacation, there are a few things you really need to understand about the island because Maui is easy to love, but it's also easy to plan the wrong way. You can stay in the wrong area, spend way more than expected, pack your itinerary, or plan the Road to Hana like it's just a normal drive in the park. It's not. So today, we're going to keep it simple. These are the Maui essentials to know before you book. Aloha and welcome to Hawaii's Best. I'm Brian Murphy, Hawaii destination expert and your personal guide to planning an unforgettable trip to Hawaii. This episode is sponsored by Shaka Guide. Later on, I'll share how I've used their self-guided audio tours to explore Hawaii at my own pace. Maui is really one of the best all-around islands in Hawaii if you want beaches, scenery, food, adventure, and resort options without having to island hop all over the place. Across the island, you've got South Maui beaches, Kaanapali resorts, Wailea luxury, upcountry small towns, Haleakala, and of course, the famous Road to Hana. So if you're planning a honeymoon, anniversary trip, family vacation, or a first trip to Hawaii, Maui makes a lot of sense. But I want to be honest a bit because Maui isn't cheap. It's actually the most expensive island in Hawaii to visit. It's not the quietest island, and it's not some untouched place with empty beaches everywhere. So if you're picturing no traffic, low prices, and a totally remote feel, Maui may not be your best fit if that is what you're envisioning or that's what you're wanting for your Hawaii vacation. But if you want one island that gives you a lot of options in one trip, Maui, it's really hard to beat. Here's where I think the biggest mistakes happen when planning a Maui trip. A lot of people, especially first timers or maybe a second time or third time to Hawaii, a lot of people pick a hotel before they understand the island. So you don't want to do that. You want to pick the area of the island first. So let's go over a little bit of that with Maui. South Maui, that includes Kihei, Wailea, and Makena. Kihei it's more casual. You'll find condos, vacation rentals. Always vet those. I'll link an episode below about how to make sure you vet a legal vacation rental in Hawaii because that is kind of a hot topic. Also, Kihei has some great beaches, food trucks, and usually more space for the money. So for families, Kihei can make a lot of sense because you can often get a kitchen, do laundry, and keep things a little bit more flexible. Wailea is more polished. It's the high-end resort, some beautiful resorts there, calm beaches, great restaurants. Obviously, you have higher prices with all that. So if you're coming for a honeymoon, anniversary, or you just want the resort to be a big part of the trip, Wailea is definitely a strong choice. So that's South Maui. West Maui, which is the other resort area of the island, that includes Lahaina, Kaanapali, Napili, and Kapalua. Kaanapali is a classic Maui resort area. This is where we stay, actually. Some great beaches, hotels, great sunsets, restaurants, shops, all of that within walking distance. Napili feels a little bit more smaller. It's more relaxed. And Kapalua is quieter, more upscale, and has some of the best coastline really on the island. Going to central Maui, that's around Kahului, Wailuku. It's more practical than, that resort kind of maybe picture that you're envisioning for your trip. So it's not that postcard version of Maui, but it can save you some money and it puts you closer to the airport. The next thing to know really about booking any trip, but specifically Maui, is the cost because Maui is expensive from food, rental cars, hotels, activities, parking, resort fees, groceries. It all adds up really fast. But that doesn't mean you can't do Maui on a more careful budget, but you need a plan for it, honestly. And if you're staying in like a condo, maybe a timeshare or, a stop at Costco near the airport, those things can help. Grabbing lunches, eating breakfast in as much as you can, lunches in. We usually do that. We usually do our outs for dinner and try to eat in as much as we can. Some of the best local food spots are on Maui. So you don't need to, every meal doesn't need to be a resort meal. grab some plate lunch, try food trucks. Those are some of the best food trucks really out of any of the islands are on Maui. So as best you can, eat at small local spots. This is where residents, a lot of people who live on Maui go. And when you look at a map, Maui, it looks pretty small, but the island does take time to get to certain destination. Drive times take longer than you think. Parking can take longer than you think. And some of the best Maui moments happen when you're not rushing. So before you book, every morning, every afternoon, every evening, try to leave as much space as you can. This is where I think a lot of first timers, where they kind of miss the mark, is trying to pack every, I've said this before, but I'm in a lot of, different Facebook groups and people will post their itinerary and it is just packed to the gill. So as best you can, try to make some space. And what I mean by that is maybe just do like one big thing a day. The two main activities I do want to mention, because they do take some extra planning, that would be Haleakala and the road to Hana. For Haleakala sunrise, you do need a reservation and you'll be waking up early for that, like middle of the night early. So I would recommend doing that maybe day 1, day 2, because you're going to be waking up early anyways. But if that sounds miserable to you, sunset is a great alternative. You actually don't need reservations for sunset. If you didn't get the reservation for sunrise, sunset is a great consolation, but it's really beautiful. Either way, you want to bring warm clothes. The summit, it's high up. It gets cold, pretty cold, colder than you think than it should be in Hawaii. Now, moving to Road to Hana. Road to Hana also needs planning. It's about, 64 miles, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you got like 600 curves, 59 some bridges, a lot of them being one lane, people live over there too. So there's commuters happening. And I think here's the part that a lot of people miss is that it's not just a scenic drive. It's a road people use to get home, to get to work, to really just live their normal lives. But people do live there. It is part of their commute. So if you do drive it on your own without doing a tour, you want to go early, be patient, pull over safely for local traffic. Please don't park illegally. It's really obvious where you can and where you can't park. And this is where I think Shaka Guide makes a lot of sense, our sponsor for this episode. I personally like to explore Hawaii on my own, at my own pace, at my family's own pace. And I don't always want to be on someone else's schedule, like in a tour group. And that's where I've used Shaka Guide myself. Their classic Road to Hana tour. It's a self-guided GPS audio tour, and it has over 20 must-see stops. So it gives you the freedom of driving yourself, but with turn-by-turn instructions, local stories along the way, and helpful tips. And here's an important note. It does work offline because you're not going to get a lot of reception on your phone, which this is huge. Just make sure that you download the tour ahead of time. So go to hawaiisbesttravel.com/Shaka Summer and enter the code Hawaii's Best for 15% off tours or bundles. This excludes their collections. So before you book West Maui, if you're thinking about staying on that side of the island, just to understand where Lahaina is at. As you know, Lahaina was devastated, destroyed a lot of it from the 2023 wildfire, and it's still very much recovering. However, some businesses have begun to reopen. Other businesses are closed. It's really obvious which are open and which are closed. So if you're staying in Kaanapali, Napili, or Kapalua, I would encourage you to support those open businesses. Tip as well as you can. Be kind. Aloha. All that good stuff goes a long way. Years ago, my wife, Allie, and I, we went to Maui for one of our anniversaries. And anytime I'm in Hawaii, it's, doing some work. We did some partnership content while we were there. And one of the most meaningful things that we did while on island is volunteering in the Honokovai Valley. And that was with Maui Cultural Lands. It's on the west side, right outside of Lahaina. And it's like a half a day. We removed some invasive species, planted native plants, and learned more about the land and why caring for it actually matters. And not just if you live on Maui, but also if you're visiting. If you want to do a volunteer day, highly would recommend Maui Cultural Land. So all of this will be linked below in the show notes. So before you book Maui, just remember this. Make sure Maui fits the trip you actually want. Pick your area before you pick your hotel. Budget honestly plan Haleakala and Road to Hana early. And if you visit West Maui, go with care for Lahaina. Maui is beautiful, but the best Maui trips happen when you understand the island before you arrive. If this episode has been helpful for you, share this with whoever is planning a trip to Maui with you. And thanks for listening all the way to the end of this episode of Hawaii's Best. So until next time, as always, live with aloha. Mahalo for listening to Hawaii's Best. If you found today's episode helpful, make sure to hit follow on your podcast app so you don't miss future episodes. You can find all links and resources mentioned today in the show notes below. Hawaii's Best is produced by Shorebreak Media Group, edited by Easy Podcast Solutions, and with music by our friends Stick Figure.